Games switching spots. What was your reaction?
Good for Washington. That was my initial reaction. Really good for Washington. You bring in Trae Young a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you're like, okay, what's the vision here? What's gonna separate this scenario from the Atlanta Hawks scenario? And then a few weeks later, right above the deadline, you bring in an Anthony Davis. You bring in someone that you can pair him with. So on paper, I like this 1-2 punch, and then you start filling in the gaps with good role players, with good young talent, and Alex Sarr and things of that nature. So my initial reaction was, now I can start seeing a vision of Washington trying to put themselves back in a position to be talked about again in the East. That was my initial reaction.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love the aggressiveness from the Wizards, and I want to take it back a little further than that. I mean, obviously they made the move earlier with Trae Young. They made this addition with AD, which I think is great. I think, putting Trae in the position to have 2 defensive guys behind him and Anthony Davis and Sarr, I think that's a perfect combination. But to take it a step even further, I just like the moves that the Wizards are making. They're now healing the relationship between John Wall and themselves, which I think is a great step for the organization moving forward. And on top of that, you're making moves like this, showing that you're a serious organization and you want to, be in contention in the East. So making these type of moves, I think they're, like I said, the right step in the right direction. So I like everything they've done so far.
Yeah, putting AD in.
What's up, everyone? If you want to understand the impact of a trade deadline move, you don't just listen to analysts, you listen to the guys who've been in the league, who know what it takes to build a culture and a winning team. And that's exactly what we got from Lou Williams right here. His instant reaction to the Washington Wizards trading for Anthony Davis wasn't about cap space or draft picks. It was about one word: vision. Let's break down what Lou said, because it's a masterclass in seeing the bigger picture. First, his immediate take: good for Washington. Not good for Anthony Davis or what a steal, but good for the franchise. He connects the dots instantly. You bring in Trae Young a few weeks ago, people ask, what's the vision? And then bam, you pair him with Anthony Davis. On paper, Lou loves that 1-2 punch. But then he goes deeper. He talks about filling in the gaps with good role players and the good young talent they already have in a guy like Alex Sarr. He's not just looking at the 2 stars, he's seeing the roster construction. This is a former 6th man of the year who knows that championships aren't won by 2 guys alone. You need that depth. You need those specific pieces around your stars. And here's the key line that I think a lot of people are missing. Now I can start seeing the vision of Washington trying to put themselves back in a position to be talked about again in the East. That is huge. For years, the Wizards have been an afterthought. Since 2021, as the host says, they've been at the bottom of the pack. Lou Williams is highlighting that this trade isn't just about winning games next season. It's about changing the entire narrative and perception of the franchise. It's a statement move that says, we are serious, we are coming. Think about the psychological effect this has. For the fans, hope. For free agents, attention. For other teams in the East, they have to start game planning for a Trae Young and Anthony Davis pick and roll. It changes the entire calculus. Now, let's contrast this with the Dallas side of the deal, which the panel gets into later. Dallas is in full Cooper Flag rebuild mode. They're shedding salary, collecting non-premium picks, and looking to the future. Washington is doing the opposite. They're cashing in assets and cap space to acquire a win-now superstar to pair with another win-now superstar. 2 franchises on completely different timelines, making moves that make perfect sense for their own vision. That's the beauty of the trade deadline. It's not about who wins or loses a trade in a vacuum. It's about organizational direction. Lou Williams, in under 90 seconds, cut through all the noise and showed us that the Washington Wizards just loudly and clearly announced theirs. The days of being irrelevant are over. They want to be talked about. And with AD and Trae, believe me, we will be talking about them. What do you think? Is Lou Williams right? Did the Wizards just execute a perfect pivot to relevance? Or is the injury history of both stars too big a risk? Let me know in the comments.